Ooh, this new track is. Hello, friends, and welcome to AWS Repost Live, your favorite companion live stream for AWS Repost. I'm your host, Jay Busch, the hostess with the mostest. Of course, you are live with Repost Live, where we take your questions, we cover your favorite use cases, we dive deep into your favorite topics, of course, that are all surfaced from Repost, right? We have the best community on the internet. Thank you so much for joining us. If you're not already on Repost, head over to repost.aws, sign up with your builder ID, and chat with some of our best experts like myself, Tipu, Bhavani, some of my favorite guests. Hello, Tipu, Bhavani. How are you guys doing?
Hey, doing pretty good. How are you doing?
So, I'm doing great. Tipu, why don't you get started with an introduction?
Sure. Hey, everybody. I'm Tipu. I'm an engineer in AWS support. Been with AWS support for almost 14 years now. And I work with customers on moving challenging workloads on AWS and then troubleshooting issues at scale to make sure that things continue to function, getting those lessons back in so that we can operationalize and have excellent availability.
Cool. Bhavani?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Happy to be here. I'm Bhavani Kanneganti. I'm one of the principal engineers in AWS support. I've been with Amazon for over 8 years now. I closely work with customers on some of the critical escalations pertaining to IAC, containers, and now GenAI. I also wear a builder hat. I closely work with service teams and internal teams in building tools as well as features for our customers to improve their experience. Happy to be here.
Now, I'm super excited about this. I know Tipu kind of teased it. We're chatting all things troubleshooting. Before we dive in, chat, feel free to let us know where you're joining from. If you have any questions, of course. The best part about Repost Live is we take your questions live on air. So we have the experts here. We're excited to get going today. We're also going to drop a link to a survey that really helps us dial in the content. It would really help us if you filled out that survey. So I'll stop with all the preamble. Guys, I'm super excited about this particular topic. Troubleshooting, of course, as a TAM, is certainly something that I'm used to working with customers who are definitely troubleshooting at scale. So I'm very excited. I got my notebook out here to see what I can learn from you guys about how you effectively can troubleshoot at scale, some of the tools that we can best use, et cetera. So I guess without further ado, where should we get started? I know, Tipu, you wrote an excellent piece on Repost that I definitely want to dive into some of the topics that you kind of call out in your piece.
Yeah, Jay, over the years, just working with so many enterprise customers, there were certainly lessons about how to operationalize at scale. And so many people achieve success in the cloud. They have more resources than they used to. And we have these events also, like in Amazon, we got Prime Day. To troubleshoot at scale requires a little bit of an approach which can cover different sets of resources and narrow down the issue when it happens. So here is a repost article. I hope you all can see it. Jay, let me know if you can.
I'll wave my presentation hands and we'll put it up on the screen. There we go.
Awesome. Magic. So this is on Repost. So everything we're going to talk about, most of it's just covered right here. So don't worry about links, etc. But where things start is there is an issue. Customers are impacted. The best possible thing is before any end customer faces any impact or realizes that there's a problem, that we can already detect and classify the issue. That signal is really important. And so the way that we can detect and then classify issues is by having the right metrics and the right signals in place so that we can see the trending ahead of time. And this means having the right metric coverage. So in Amazon, we use CloudWatch, Amazon CloudWatch, and there's obviously different types of places where you can get metrics from the operating system, from within AWS resources. But that metric coverage is certainly something that we learn all the time. It has to be quite exhaustive to make sure that we have the right signals coming in. Then the next is log coverage within CloudWatch as well. There are certain tools that make this easier, like CloudWatch will just help you set up dashboards automatically. And there are services like DevOps Guru that also help you to get the right signals of what could be going on. And so that's some of what we cover over here in terms of coverage. One of the lessons that we learned, though, and I'd love to hear from you all, but it's you got the logs, you got the metrics, but it's still hard to narrow down where the issue is happening, especially when you got a large network at scale. You got a lot of resources. Your application can be talking from one side all the way to maybe something in a different account. And to figure out which component is failing, it requires tracing and having trace coverage. What do you think, Jay?
Well, I mean, observability is, you can't hit that that point enough. If you can't measure it, I don't know how you can really do much of anything. It's often the number one source of failure. So I think this is all great stuff so far. I'm definitely intrigued, I'll say.
Yeah, and I'm going to be shifting over to the console in just a second.
Yeah.
The X-Ray is a fantastic service that can help you to get a great visualization of your components. It can cover distributed applications. It really comes out of the box with things like Lambda, API Gateway. It does require some integration if you want to get it from like a container running on EKS, but you can get that entire service map. And that service map really helps to narrow down the issue that's happening. A lot of you folks on the networking side might be thinking about packet captures as well, right? Like you get these packets aggregated into place, and you can figure out, hey, where everything's going on. And the application level, you got your debugging, operating systems, you have stack traces, but all of these things kind of come together to give you a sense of what's happening with your system overall. And from there, you narrow down. One of the things that I want to make sure you all know about is our builder library. So in Amazon, across our different services, we took a lot of our lessons that we learned building an operating software and put them in the Amazon's builder library. There is an article linked once again of the same repost that's in the notes, but it really helps you in figuring out how to set up logging in the first place. So just some best practices, because if you have the right log message, you can just make sure that you already know what the root cause is. You don't have to figure things out. The error message is just telling you where things are falling. And then on that same point about observability, you can have many different microservices in an architecture at scale, right? It's shown over here. But you can also represent them in the same dashboard. So I don't need to have a dashboard for every single microservice, especially when I'm reviewing them, as a group of teams. And in Amazon, every Wednesday, we come together and we look across our services and we see what the availability is. Now, here is a good method for setting up your dashboards. You can have the key metrics that are important across your applications. It could be availability and latency and requests over here, but even things that are specific to your business. And then you can have them across each action or even across each microservices. And that gives you a great view of what to troubleshoot, what to improve. These weekly metrics reviews really allow you to figure things out before they actually impact end customers.
I like that central command center where I can see all of my different log sources and telemetry out there that might be disparate in like a single pane of glass. I think this builder library is really invaluable for a lot of customers, whether you're just getting started or you want to know what kind of best looks like, right? Having this single pane of glass is super helpful. Cut down on some of the mean time to resolutions stats that most of our customers or metrics that most of our customers are looking for. So yeah, I can't. We'll drop these links. Don't worry about trying to scramble and look at Tipu's screen for the URLs. We will drop all of the resources out there for you folks. But yeah, this is great stuff, Tipu.
Hey, thanks, Jay. And so inevitably, something is gonna fail, no matter how much we try and set up our systems with reliability, with availability. There can be some edge case. Hopefully, we catch it before it impacts end customers. But then once there's an issue, we have to troubleshoot to narrow things down. Understanding the problem really means asking the right clarifying questions. Where is the impact? Did it impact just this set of customers? Have you narrowed down which components are failing? Was there a correlated alarm? And so when we're troubleshooting, asking the right questions is just as important as getting the answers and the telemetry. If you've got the best logging, as we discussed, you can already get the error message, which will tell you what's going on. Maybe you just need to scale up something simple. And then one important question in Amazon quite often is, have you mitigated the problem? So customers got impacted. We maybe didn't catch it in time, but now that there is some impact, can we mitigate it? Like, for example, by failing over to another region, that's a mitigation strategy. And those are the kind of questions we ask as we troubleshoot. And most certainly with customers, we do that too. Now, what changes at scale is quite often a matter of data. Since there's so many different resources, if your trace didn't tell you what's going on, and you do need to look at individual components to figure out which one is failing, or maybe find out, get a large set of logs from a set of components that are failing, the data collection in an automated manner comes up. Jane, you and I were talking about this. Sometimes the logging is just not configured and you need to set it up. And this is where systems manager is super useful, right? So what I'm showing over here is just a systems manager automation document. You put in the buckets for S3 in this situation. You can imagine the same thing happening for ELBs that need access logs enabled. And with systems manager, you can just have them enabled across the board if it wasn't enabled in the first place through something like Control Tower.
No, yeah, I think that's super cool. And obviously, we only have a limited amount of time, so we can't dive super deep in a systems manager. But it's really kind of like a collection of tools, right? It helps with a number of different at-scale type use cases. But for this particular use case in automating data collection, it's invaluable, right? I got 1,000 EC2s all over, S3 all over, right? And I need a centralized place to be able to deploy and collect some of this invaluable telemetry and get to some of those dashboarding aspects that you showed earlier. So yeah, this is super cool. I like that you detailed out how, the code snippet of how I can execute this. I think that's super helpful for folks just getting started.
Awesome. And, even if you don't have the time to create these automation documents, you can create a lot of queries now in Amazon, in AWS, different AWS services. For example, even CloudTrail, you can just type in natural language what you're looking for. It can create that query for you. Amazon Q Developer, which I use almost every day.
Did you say natural language, Tipu? I can use natural language? Like,
yes.
Oh, I just kind of got used to writing weird log queries and using Athena and just hacking away. A lot of select star statements is pretty much what I've been doing.
For sure. And I get it. These things are faster, definitely now. And even in terms of creating these systems manager documents or CloudFormation templates, a Q developer really saves a lot of time to get those started. Hey, but once you got all these signals in place, right? You got all these logging enabled, and you need to still you need to find a needle in a haystack, figure out what's actually causing the problem. That's where Athena is still useful. I know we're talking about these queries, but so in Athena, you can have obviously these queries also generated by Q or some other assistant, but it's so useful in figuring out what's going on. In fact, I was using Athena earlier for troubleshooting a networking issue, and the flow logs just weren't working out. So I just asked Amazon Q over here, are flow logs enabled on my main VPC? it was able to call the different APIs. And then it was able to tell me that, yep, you got enabled, but you didn't have the right permissions. So that was pretty useful because then I just fixed the permissions and then voila, I got my flow logs covered. For anyone who might not have used flow logs are, think about them like they have the information that are in packet captures in terms of the metadata and, IPs, source destination. And in this situation, I was trying to figure out across so many different resources, well, what is drop in the packets, right? And so ran this query. And the cool thing about this one is that it was able to tell me which packets got rejected. So now I don't have to just like try and look at every single resource. I know that it's this specific EC2 instance right here that's failing. What do you think, Jay?
Okay, so you just use just plain old English in the console with this Amazon Q free tier. It looks like you didn't have to pay for it. You use the free tier. Yeah, it's a natural language query, and you got an answer. And it really, I guess, expedited the process to you even interrogating those logs, where I would have had to hack away and hack away.
That's right. In this case, Amazon Q helped me to get this SQL query for TNet to use. But we also have the natural language interfaces, for example, for CloudTrail or even for CloudWatch logs. You just put in a natural language and it'll just build a query for you.
And that's, I mean, Q developers in the console, right? Like you can do a bunch of different stuff. I didn't even know that this was like a covered use case that you could use Q developer for in the console. I think this is super cool. I mean, you just saved me a lot of time. So yeah, I'm intrigued to learn more about how I can use said natural language, push it to its bounds.
Totally. And in full transparency, sometimes you got to get your prompt right. But you can see, like, my prompt was pretty basic here.
Right.
What I
yeah, I don't think that was overly complex. Just to say, is this enabled on my main VPC? That, I mean, again, that saves me from dumpster diving through all of the different flow logs that I've set up. I have thousands of VPCs even in my test account. So I mean, that would be helpful.
Cool. One more thing that I wanted to cover from the article was that you got to get these diagnostics from a bunch of different resources if you don't know what's going on. So, for example, if the operating system is getting stuck, or you even need to fix the operating system, think about like Windows servers getting stuck and you need to restart them. And doing this at scale, yeah, you can write up some scripts that do it, but once in Systems Manager is so useful over here. And so we've used it with customers as well. Let me just show you something called support automated workflows. And so over here, in this diagram, you can see that we run automation documents across EC2 instances to gather diagnostics or to even do remediation. Well, you have to first have that systems manager document, right, to run the automation. Well, this is where I did want to tell you that these support automated workflows, these are available to you. These are pre-created systems manager documents that are tested and vetted. And you can run these to find out, not just the diagnostics of what's going wrong, you can actually remediate certain issues as well, such as our documents on EC2 Rescue, which will fix issues with Windows or troubleshoot disk issues.
This is all good stuff. We have people piling in from all over the world, so I definitely have to take a moment to shout folks out. I see some folks using Q for Lambda function errors. Again, use cases that I didn't even know Q covered. This is all super cool stuff. I did get a question though from one of our users, Swasti. I'm really bad at names. I apologize. But was inquiring about the top 5 steps, strategies, which should be followed to troubleshoot at scale using AWS. And of course, I guess I will let you guys cover some of your favorites, but obviously, Tipu, you're covering one right now. Automate, right? That's a great strategy. Automate. Stop sending out pages to your network engineers late at night. Those guys need sleep, and gals, they need sleep. So automate. And do you guys have one?
For sure. You don't want to be woken up in the middle of the night.
I don't.
And it's automate, but then accelerate your automation through AI, because AI makes it so much easier to not just build your automation, but then also with these agents having it run things for you, as long as you have the right test harnesses and right guardrails in place.
Bhavani, do you have any interesting ones? Obviously, we covered observability, right? If you can't measure it, I don't know how you can alert on it or how you can know. Bhavani, you got one?
Yeah, I would like to also highlight that there are some troubleshooting methodologies available, like the tested troubleshooting methodologies. For example, if it's an ambiguous situation, we can replicate or we can do process of elimination. So there are some standard methodologies also that we can follow along with this Gen AI and troubleshooting best practices that are covered in this live session.
Yeah, super cool. Chad, keep those questions coming. Let us know more of your Q use cases. I thought that was super cool. If you're using Q Developer in the console today for troubleshooting Lambda function errors or asking questions about your resources or whatever, let us know your use cases. Let us know where you're joining from. But this is super cool. So SAW is what we were learning about, Tipu, the automation workflow. I've never used that. I'm sorry. I think I killed your momentum there. What exactly is SAW?
You didn't kill it at all. And so support automated workflows, there are systems manager documents. Essentially, these systems manager documents, they've been vetted, they've been tested. They'll have further code within them too, because some of this stuff needs to run in operating systems. For example, if there's something wrong with the Windows registry, or there is some Linux module that is not working well, or some driver issues. So diagnosing that, making sure the right root cause is figured out with the diagnosis is what these vetted systems manager documents do, and that is called support automated workflows. It's available for you all in the systems manager console.
Again, another plug for systems manager. This is going to be a great great use of that. So, okay, that's super cool. So again, at scale, SSM seems to be like a pretty core component here, and SAW and some of the functionality here will definitely help our customers. That's great stuff.
Absolutely. You asked about some of the best methods, the top 5 methods. So we have some of them in this article. So this is just, we've organized it the way that it's made the most sense. But, you called it out, detecting and classifying issues, having that metric coverage, log coverage, trace coverage from the beginning. If you're a developer, set those up from the beginning, you're going to save yourself a lot of time in the future. And if you have a problem, understand the problem by asking the right questions, figure out and narrow down the problem, automate your data collection. He said automate, accelerate that with AI. And then if you need to, you can test and replicate at scale. Same thing in evaluation. You develop your fix, get it validated and fixed. Amazon Q can help you here at Q Developer because it can develop the testing for you. And then if there's a CloudFormation template needed to set things up again, it can help you build that. We certainly use it to replicate things. You can still have it go through code review before you implement it, of course. And then the last one is, and this for me is the most important one, which is learn from past issues to avoid them in the future. So every time that there is a major problem, we have a correction of errors, which means that we go through and figure out why this happened and what we need to prevent it in the future. This is part of well architected too, and that's the last one from me.
Learning from yours, it's a tried and true. Those are also invaluable, right? To learn from what failed previously and to improve, right? So we don't face those errors. That's really good stuff. Definitely check out Tipu's article on Repost, of course, your source for not just random Q&A stuff, but also great content like what Tipu has provided. So be sure to check out that article on Repost. That's super cool. Thank you so much, Tipu. This is really good stuff. I'll definitely find myself clicking through some more of these nuggets. Anomaly detection in my logs is definitely something that caught my eye as far as the AI capability that I will be interested in. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Jay. And this was just sort of an introduction.
Yeah.
We have Bhavani here with us, who is really hands-on and will walk us through actual troubleshooting.
Sure. Whenever my screen is available on the...
Wait. I have to do the thing.
Oh,
all
the
right.
thing. Magic.
Let's take a look.
You're going to teach us that magic someday, Jay.
It's Repost guest, or it's only a power that I have. You have to summon it. Anyway, Bhavani, let's break some stuff. So what are we looking at? We're looking at a workshop of some sort.
Yeah, Actually, there's a workshop with all these troubleshooting best practices and broken scenarios where we can perform some troubleshooting and learn from those with our AWS services. So today we are presenting that workshop. This workshop is available for everyone. It has multiple modules for DevOps, serverless, containers, databases, and networking. But for today's demo, we picked a couple of scenarios which can tackle with Amazon Q or DevOps Guru or X-Ray that we have discussed earlier. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Getting excited. So let me get started with explaining about the architecture.
Wait, Bhavani.
Okay.
We got folks joining. They're piling in here. Whenever demos come, that's when most of the guests come in. They want to see stuff break. I want to shout out everybody who just joined us. Thank you so much from all over the world. This is super cool, of course. You are tuned in to Repost Live, the best show on the internet, of course. And we're talking about troubleshooting at scale. I got Tipu. I got Bhavani. We're about to get into a lab that is available to a bunch of people and see how you can implement some of these strategies to troubleshoot at scale. So Bhavani, let's go. I'm sorry. I got too excited.
I get it, Jay. So yeah, first we are sharing a simple architecture. This is serverless architecture where a user can perform 3 operations. Basically, they can insert data into database, retrieve that data by a unique ID, or retrieve all the items from the database. So to perform that API calls, we have used API gateway, which is again serverless. And for each API execution, we have Lambda code, Lambda function deployed, and again that is integrated with API gateway. And to store data, retrieve data, we are leveraging DynamoDB. And just want to highlight that this entire application is deployed by a CloudFormation and automated through code pipeline. This is about high-level architecture, but let me quickly go into the issue. And before that, I also want to introduce a VS Code environment. So through this workshop, you don't have to have your VS Code or your IDE. We are providing it for you with Q plugin installed. So all you have to do is subscribe to Q. You probably need Builder ID. Sign up to that, enable Q, and in that VS Code, we even provide files like Lambda functions that we are discussing, where you can ask you to accelerate your development, or if any issues happens, you can ask you to get some help. The key difference between the one that I'm sharing versus Tipu shared earlier Q is that was Q developer on console. It can actually interact with the resources that are in your account, but this one mainly for your development enhancement and any general guidance questions in terms of troubleshooting.
It's everywhere. It's in the IDE, it's in the console. Jeez.
Yeah, it's on Lambda console. It's on multiple service consoles, CloudFormation, on VS Code, wherever you are. So let me quickly go into that issue. So I was telling, we have API with 3 methods that we can perform, right? So what I'll do is I'll quickly try to, insert some data and try to retrieve the data, and we'll see how it works. So this is the workshop. As mentioned, it is available for everyone, and we have commands, few sample prompts available for you to test out when you're troubleshooting issues. So let me quickly grab the API URL and try to insert some data. So I'm just using the commands included in the workshop. I copied the command and I'm trying to execute that on my terminal. Well, I got the API URL. So now let me use this URL to insert some data into DynamoDB. So you all can see here, I'm adding some user details, and I'm using curl command. And basically for the API gateway, I'm using post method. Post method is to insert data. So yeah, let me grab the command and insert some data. It looks fine. I don't see any errors.
It didn't break. So we're good.
We are good. Now let's try to see what we have inserted. So we have another method, as I mentioned earlier, called get method. So let me use the command and try to see if we can get the data that we have inserted. So if you can see from the command, I'm trying to grab it by the unique user ID which I've inserted earlier, which is 1. So let me try to grab the details.
Okay. Oh, I see something happening. Okay, that was quick.
That was quick, but if you see, I don't see any response. Usually it should give the data that we have inserted earlier, but I didn't see that. Any suggestions, team? Any suggestions, even the live audience, on what could be the issue and how we can solve this?
Yes. Does anyone out there drop it in chat? While you're dropping it in chat, let's take a quick a few questions because a few of them came in. First one was from JibJab06. Again, he noticed, or she noticed, that Q was everywhere like we did. JibJab06 asked, what is Q currently not integrated with? Seems like it's everywhere. I don't even know. I mean, I think it's everywhere. It's in the IDE. It's in the console. I think is there an app? I mean, do you guys know? I think it's everywhere, to be honest.
It's almost every, even on QuickSight it is there. So
yeah, it's in QuickSight. I will drop some info on Q, but it is everywhere you are, JibJab06. That's where I would say. Next question was from Kana. Want to send data to Salesforce? Which service is the best? Interesting. This is an interesting use case. I don't know if this is like want to send data to Salesforce.
There is a service called Q Business. It supports plugins, and Salesforce is one of the integration it supports. So, again, Q Business is a service available to integrate our, enterprise knowledge bases for RAG, and you can integrate Salesforce and leverage plugins feature, to interact with Salesforce.
There you go. Not to be confused with Q Dev, but Q Business has got you covered. Tipu.
And then there's also the Salesforce has connectors into AWS as well. We have a service called AppFlow. So specifically, if you're looking to send data to Salesforce, check out AppFlow.
Someone asked, I think, did I see Xcode or something? Is that what popped up? The IDE integration with Q, maybe? Pretty sure, right? I'm not a VS Code guy myself, but I'm pretty sure you can use it within VS Code. I'd be surprised if you can't. Yeah. What did I miss? Any questions? Warner Coates. How long before another change? It's just remember it's AI. I'm not sure if I got that. Maybe it's a joke. Warner, I'm sorry, but I didn't get that. S Bobcat 007. Where would I begin to deploy services like X-Ray across my accounts? Oh, this is good. Any guidance here, guys?
Yeah, we'll actually cover this soon on how to integrate X-Ray. Through this live demo, we'll show how to do it mainly for the Lambda functions, but it's a similar way we can expand into other services as well. So I
gotcha. Okay. Well, thanks for the questions, guys. Keep those coming. To Bhavani's original question, though, does anyone have a guess? It looks like we got one guess from Effie, I believe, that it's a permission issue. Bhavani, what do you think? Is it's always permission or DNS? That's always the answer.
It could be definitely permission issue, but from the response, I don't get that right. Like, whether it's a permission issue, whether it's an access, any integration issue. So let's go through each of it and then quickly try to find out what it could be. So as I said, there are three key components, right? There is API gateway, Lambda, and DynamoDB. So whenever something fails, the first thing that comes to my mind is logs. And Lambda already has CloudWatch logs integration. So let me quickly check Lambda logs to see, if I can find anything from the logs. So,
okay.
Yeah, I'm now entering into the Lambda page.
Yep.
Yeah. So here in the API gateway, this is the API gateway integration. And if you see, there's a get method. And from that, I'm just trying to grab the Lambda function that is associated with it. This is the Lambda function. And
gotcha.
All I have to do is go to Monitor tab, view CloudWatch logs, click that button, get the latest logs. Okay. Let me quickly see. I see the invocation worked, but I don't see any error logs in this CloudWatch. I don't think I've done a good job in adding the error log on the for CloudWatch to capture it. So let me check DynamoDB to see if I can find anything, whether the data that I've inserted is actually there in the DynamoDB. Oops, I don't have permissions. The admin didn't give me the permissions to to access the DynamoDB as well. Okay, now I am out of ideas. Any suggestions from live audience?
Yeah, any suggestions? Again, that don't include paging anyone. Any suggestions from the audience out there? Let us know. Drop them in chat. What should we do?
In the interim, what I'll do is I'll try to ask you, as I said, we have Q, it can accelerate our troubleshooting. So I'll quickly ask you to see if it can help me troubleshoot the issue.
Pillbox Gaming says to delete all accounts. That would probably not be the best. I wouldn't recommend that one. Personally, I wouldn't, but
So I'm just grabbing the prompt. So in the workshop, we have even given the sample prompts that you can use. As
Oh,
earlier, it's all natural language. So in natural language, I'm asking question, and I'm giving the context to Q, telling that, hey, I'm using DynamoDB, just to make sure that it'll give me the troubleshooting guidance around my context versus giving general guidance across API issues. So yeah, this is the Q plugin. Let me acknowledge some basic checks, and I'll ask prompt. The prompt, basically, I'm saying that my Get API call is not working and it is integrated with DynamoDB, and can you help me troubleshoot?
what could be the issue?
You can answer.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah,
That was pretty quick.
and
Wow.
it basically gives details from multiple sources, like it is repost articles, public documentation. It'll capture all the good things, all the right relevant things, and share it as a summary for us to follow.
Love those repost articles.
And in fact, actually, the response that you're seeing is from combination of repost articles, questions that are asked by our customers, as well as public documentation. So it gave in the step format, in the
Wow.
detailed format. So let me quickly go through each of it. I'll be fast because some of it we have already covered, but let me see what are suggestions. It says API configuration. We have already checked. It has right Lambda integration, and it's suggesting us the right methods for API gateway, which we already have. So I think we are good in that space. As our audience, even that it is highlighting to check Lambda function permissions. So multiple folks are suggesting. So let me quickly check permissions to see if that could be the issue.
Permissions or DNS, Bhavani, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Jay Patton says it's also super fast. He must have also used it. LinkedIn user says access key. Is it the access key?
So Lambda uses basically service roles. So it works, for its any integration or API call access to other services, it leverages service role. So for it to, for example, in this case, for it to access DynamoDB, its service role should have permissions, right permissions for DynamoDB. So not definitely access key, it's via roles, IAM roles. So that's what we are seeing in the console. I'm going to configurations, I'm checking the permissions. And here I can see the role name that Lambda is using to perform all these calls, like whether to insert data into CloudWatch or to call DynamoDB, it leverages the service role. So let me quickly check the service role to see if it has the right permissions for DynamoDB invocation. Okay, it has standard Lambda execution role, which basically, CloudWatch log permissions to upload data into CloudWatch. I can see some X-ray. As you see X-ray, next I'll show how the X-ray works, but you can see there are X-ray permissions as well. And Lambda, this is for CloudWatch Insights, that Lambda, even that is there. There is a role policy, but again, it's also covering CloudWatch. I think it's IAM permissions. I think so. As audience called out, as well as Q called out, it's the IAM permissions. I don't see any DynamoDB permissions from all the details here. It's all CloudWatch, X-ray things. It doesn't have DynamoDB, so it looks like it is the one. But we have also X-ray covered. X-ray integration with Lambda. So we'll see if X-ray can help us. Or confirm that it is a permission issue. I can see that it's permission, but let's see if X-ray can further substantiate our assumptions. But before that, I'll quickly show how X-ray is integrated into Lambda code. So this is the Lambda code to retrieve the data from database. You can see I have. I'm trying to add the right package for X-ray, and in my code I have added all the right code segments to capture the traces, to capture the segments under it, and that X-ray X-ray service will leverage to create a trace map, and for during that trace map it will highlight what services are called out, and for each service it will give a segment with details about what could be the different things that are associated with that segment, which could be errors, responses, any tags that we want to add. All that we can configure in the code. Now let's go into Lambda again. And it has, in the monitoring page, you can see all the multiple tabs that it has. From here, I'm just trying to grab X-ray console tab link. And if you scroll down, sorry, let me change the time frame to 15 minutes because we have been troubleshooting for more than some time now, and I can see a faulty trace here.
No
And
worries. Bhavani, we lost your camera. Your camera was pointed down. No worries.
I was just trying to do it. I'm sorry about
No worries. Live troubleshooting.
that. Yeah. So basically, I have two monitors. So my main laptop is trying to come in the way. So sorry about
No
that.
worries. No worries.
Yeah, so this is a faulty trace. You can see it is a 5x. So probably this could be the one, which can give us details. So let me quickly open it. People have called out earlier about trace map. This is all about it. Like, whenever a user makes a request, or the request navigates to multiple services through X-ray, X-ray service captures that traces and it'll create a trace map for us. If you can see here, a client made a request. It went to API gateway, it called Lambda, and Lambda eventually called DynamoDB. But let's see where the error is. That comes from segment section. And you can see in the segment timeline, it's actually pointing to DynamoDB. DynamoDB has 5 error, and I can actually check exceptions. And in the exception, let me enlarge this so that everyone can see it.
Yeah, I see an error here.
Yeah.
And judging by the time itself, it was like 700 milliseconds compared to everything else. So it was super quick.
Yeah. And you can see from the error message that it's a get permissions issue. Like basically, it doesn't have DynamoDB get API call to perform actions. So yeah, now you can see during ambiguous situation, we took help of Q, and it gave us multiple recommendations on how we can perform the troubleshooting. But you have seen with X-ray how it accelerated further, right? It gave us an error message. But I would like to know, is there any opportunity to improve this troubleshooting further?
I have a few ideas. I do want to, as I see folks again, just piling in from all over the place. I see somebody from Indonesia. Again, we have some folks down in Florida. Like this is great. I do want to take really quick, Bhavani, a few questions because some of these are pretty good. So your voice asked a few questions. I think I'm going to take the first one about it. It seems like Q has a chat capability and does not have a capability to interact with the editor pane or terminal in the VSC. Is that a correct understanding?
No, actually, it can in fact interact on the VS Code as well. So, like for example, if I open any of the, let me open a CloudMation template. I can add a comment here, and Q can give suggestions on the fly. And even I can enable inline chat feature. So it's pretty much integrated within VS Code, not just a chat feature. So all I have to do is add some comment. And you can already see like Q is that the one that is popping up is actually Q. You can see that it's based on our prompt in natural language, or our prompt, or like comment in a natural language. It can understand and it can generate code for us. So it is pretty much integrated with VS Code.
Yeah. It truly is everywhere. It's everywhere you want to be, I suppose. The other one from your voice though was can Q interact with all components offered / available within AWS? Can it configure deploy on those components? Maybe so. Maybe a bit of supported services and whether or not maybe mutations potentially, or at least that's the way I interpret the question, are supported through Q.
Yeah, hey, so when I was showing the console earlier, I just asked it, are flow logs enabled on my VPC? So it did call the APIs to figure out if flow logs were enabled. However, it did not enable the flow logs for me. So that's an additional thing, which Q in the console doesn't do currently, but we'd love to know if you want it.
We'd love to know if you want it, your voice. And that's currently. We'll see how this thing evolves, but yeah, let us know. Maybe you have a use case, your voice, and we can pass it along to the folks that develop these cool products. Does Q play well with IAC like Terraform from another user? And the answer, of course, is of course.
Of course. Yeah.
Come on.
What you're seeing on my screen is actually a CloudFormation template. So it does really well. It can generate complete template for you. All you have to give is right prompt with context, and it should be able to generate templates for us. even Terraform too. Yeah.
That's super cool. I think your voice seems to be headed towards a world in which Q's the everything. I just interact with Q. He's my AWS companion. He can help me do everything. I want to enable this or disable this. I certainly definitely would welcome a world in which it could help with many of those things. But a lot of Bhavani and Tipu, what you kind of showed here, like it really can help democratize some of these capabilities, troubleshooting, for instance, for folks who might not be super fluent in, dumpster diving through CloudWatch logs or, examining traces, right? Like this, if I can just use natural language, it becomes a lot easier for me to, tactically execute on some of these things, just using Q. I think that's super cool.
Cool.
What other questions? Are you using CloudWatch now or X-Ray for the above situation?
So CloudWatch logs didn't help me because, as I said, I did a bad job in adding, in not adding the right error logs in my Lambda code. So I have leveraged X-Ray in this case. Like, let me grow. Yeah, this is X-Ray. It's integrated with CloudWatch. Like, it's in the CloudWatch console, but it's a separate tab called X-Ray traces. And from that, I actually, try to identify the root cause of the issue.
That's guys, keep the questions coming. Somebody also asked about the stream schedule from XZen TV. There's shows all day, it feels like, all the time on almost every platform. I know we host an amazing show, Repost Live. There's a number of shows, so you can check out the AWS Twitch channel, the YouTube channel. We're everywhere, right? Like just check out the schedule on Twitch. I know it's just twitch.tv/AWS, and you can see our full schedule. But check out all of our shows, XZen TV. There's a bunch of stuff out there. Maybe we can drop you to a formal channel. So we're coming up here. We got a little bit of time. What else, Bhavani, can we squeeze in here? Do we have enough time? This was super cool in it itself. Do we have any time really? Maybe we can just summarize what we learned. I know that's probably the safest bet before we break something and we can't fix it.
Yeah, I think key thing is, right, like, from this troubleshooting, what we have seen is there are issues with logs. Like, basically I have not done a good job in handling, adding all the right error logs into the CloudWatch. And the other thing I have seen is I don't have right access permissions. If you see DynamoDB, I don't have details. And another key thing is I could have got that error message from the API response itself, right? Instead, I was navigating through Q, X-Ray to get that details. So again, an opportunity to improve my coding here. Like, maybe in the catch block, I should have a response block which will give that response for the API gateway to consume and surface it as a response in the API. So for that, I would like to highlight that all this should be done as part of your development lifecycle. There should be a proper CR mechanism. There should be right unit tests, integration tests in place to ensure that all these errors are captured beforehand and will not will not go into these errors in the production environment. But again, we can't always be perfect. There will be some edge scenarios, and in that situation, having this telemetry services like X-Ray, there is DevOps Guru as well, having all these right services in place. And now with Q, it can help accelerate our troubleshooting.
That's so wonderful, guys. I'm kind of overwhelmed with how much I just learned. Not that I'm excited for something to break, but I feel more prepared. I would love to work 2 hours a day and offload everything to Q. So would I, Rally. So would I. I shouldn't say that live on air. No, I would like to work forever and ever. I love this job. This is great, though. I think this, yes. I mean, the TLDR, though, is everything doesn't have to be super painful, right? Allow Q to help you expedite, to break more stuff. Allow Q to help you expedite those, time to resolutions, or like find, you can get to those answers a lot quicker. Right? No, we don't get paid to fix stuff, right? We get paid for innovation and some of the things that we can provide. So this has been super cool, guys. I want to certainly highlight and shout out again, Tipu, your article. Just if you're looking of how should I get started with some of these things, right? From SAW to using Amazon Q, like we covered, using SSM to automate, deployment of some of these mechanisms to troubleshoot at scale, guys, start here with this article that Tipu wrote. I'm going to upvote this. I'm not signed in. I'm going to upvote this, though, when I do get offline. This is a great article. And, of course, it's a reminder that reposts, of course, is not just Q&A, but we have experts like Tipu, Bhavani that are posting content on repost constantly for you guys to consume. So be sure to check that out. I have a quick teaser, though, because we covered so many different Q use cases and how I can use Q in the IDE, how I can use it in the console to ask questions. There's another Q feature that I also want you guys to check out, something that's in preview right now, but using Q Developer to do, we'll say, more end-to-end investigation, again, using natural language, that I really want you guys to check out. So I'm highlighting a blog post. We'll drop the link in the chat. Talks about using Q Developer for investigations. And if you are really interested to learn more about this, we have an upcoming show that Jeff, of course, highlighted from an upcoming show on Containers from the Couch, which is one of my favorite shows, to XZen's point about, just all of the shows and content that we have out there. There's a YouTube show, Containers from the Couch, that I love watching, and they're going to cover this Q Developer for operational investigations coming up here, I believe, in 2 days. Oh, Feb 13th. So set your calendars for this. This is going to be a great, really a use case that kind of builds on some of the items that we talked about, guys, that I'm super excited about. I think lastly, of course, this is a shameless plug, but make sure you follow Repost Live, guys, the tag. If you want to know about shows that are coming up, if you want to follow some of the great content that we are featuring, like some of this content from my favorite host on Repost, Stephen Heverin, Go Birds. It's all right here. You can follow just the Repost Live tag, and you'll get all of the updates about the show, what's coming up, who's going to be featured. You can start dropping questions on Repost, and we'll, of course, answer them live on air. So feel free to follow the tag. Feel free to follow Tipu's content that he published. I'm super excited. This is probably been one of my favorite episodes, guys. I know we have another episode coming up next Tuesday, Feb 18, 2 p.m. Pacific, where we're going to talk about operational excellence with EKS Auto Mode, a feature that was announced at reInvent. So you can start that discussion if you're in chat, guys, right now over on Repost. Start submitting questions using the Repost Live tag that I just showed you. And of course, we will feature some of that content live on air. So follow Repost, sign in to repost.aws and get started with the best community on the internet. Like I always say, you can sign up with your Builder ID over at repost.aws. Follow the show. This is going to be one of my favorite episodes. I want to thank Tipu and Bhavani for stopping by. And be sure to check out the Containers from the Couch episode, where they're going to be double-clicking on Q for troubleshooting at scale use cases. So, guys, thank you so much for dropping by. This has been super cool. Don't forget to subscribe here on Twitch, YouTube, wherever you might be following us for more great content that is coming. Tipu, Bhavani, thank you so much. Everybody who joined us, happy building.
Thank you.